Welcome to the next edition of the Foundation Speaker Series. I'm Amber Goss, and today I'm excited to be able to introduce to you one of my personal friends and former PFEW alum, Mr. Toan Do. Toan is the Senior Information Technology Auditor for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association's Federal Employee Benefits Program. The Blue Cross Blue Shield Association is a national association of 36 independent, community-based, and locally operated Blue Cross Blue Shield companies. In Pennsylvania, you may be familiar with the companies like Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, Independence Blue Cross, and Capital Blue Cross. The association owns and manages the Blue Cross Blue Shield trademarks and names in more than 170 countries around the world. Toan works in the Washington, D.C. office, but primarily teleworks and travels to the Blue Cross Blue Shield companies. Hailing from Dutch Country, Pennsylvania, Toan grew up in Lancaster, where he attended Conestoga Valley High School before earning his bachelor's degree and master's degree from Shippensburg University. When Toan is not working or volunteering with organizations like PFEW, he enjoys spending time traveling to new places, exploring the outdoors, eating pho and sushi, and sipping bubble tea. But what is most important to Toan's heart is spending time with family and friends, including his future bride-to-be, Anna, who is an ER nurse in Lancaster County. Welcome, Toan.
Hey, thank you, Amber, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. We appreciate you being with us. So let's start with the obvious. Being a PFEW alum, such as myself, can you tell me how the program affected you?
Sure. So PFEW, I've learned so many lessons learned from PFEW, and I always go back to the summer of 2007 when I first went onto campus. And so I always kind of go back to that time. But the really number one lessons learned that I've really gotten from PFEW was it really gotten me out of my shell. So when I was a high school student, I was really quiet, just shy. I love to think strategically, love to read, kind of more independent. So when I got on campus for the very first time, what I really learned while on campus for that week, that duration, was just to be able to get out of my shell, collaborate with others, and learning to work as a team. And so moving forward on after PFEW, I just learned the importance of teamwork and working together and just collaborating with others and just being able to understand how others work, because everyone's different in their own unique ways. Just being able to understand that and just being able to adapt to everyone's different working styles. And at PFEW, we were students. We were still learning. We were still learning how to work. And so just being open to that atmosphere just allowed me to move forward on into my career path and into life, and just being able to have that. And it's great because when you're in the working world, you're not working with people who are in your own age group. You're working with different people from different backgrounds, and just that diversity. And by going to PFEW, just allows me to have that backbone to be able to bring that into the workplace, and not even just the workplace, just into different relationships throughout my life. And so that's one of the lessons learned. The other lessons learned that I took away from PFEW was that just being able to explore new opportunities. Right. So at PFEW, you're presented with so many concepts, whether from business and like I mentioned before, just being able to work with others. So you're just being exposed to different types of opportunities. So back in high school, I've always wanted to be an accountant. That was always ingrained in me, just because my parents, they wanted me to work in an office environment. So my parents, they're actually blue-collar workers, and so they wanted me and my sister to work in more of an office setting. So accounting was always one of those things that's always been ingrained in me. To go to school, take some accounting classes in high school, go to college, pursue an accounting degree. And so just going to PFEW, it's allowed me to have much more breadth of an understanding of what different aspects, what different components make up a business. So at PFEW, there was a big discussion on marketing, which I never really considered that as a career path, because my mind has always been narrowed towards accounting. So there's marketing, there's finance, you can do project management. So there's just so many opportunities in the business world, and so just being exposed to that has allowed me to say, hey, there's other opportunities than just being an accountant. Another lesson learned that I took from PFW is that you work hard, play hard, right? So while I was on campus, I'll tell you what, we always spent so much time in the auditoriums. We spent so much time in the company meetings, and we were always focused. We were always working. But then, after spending all that time just working, the number one thing that I always remember from that week 3, summer of 2007, was my company advisor, Nate Cooper. And every time we would see him, we would always chant, Nate dog, Nate dog. We would always do that. And so, you work hard, but then at the same time, you're also learning about motivating others. And so you would always find those little niches, those gaps after working to be creative. And that was one way, just motivating others. And our CEO at the time, we would always do some random crazy chants. We would go crazy. So that's another lesson learned, is that when you're working hard, you also learn how to play hard, and just kind of exploring those that creative side of you.
So after attending PFEW and graduating high school, we mentioned that you attended Shippensburg, where you majored in business administration and then went on to receive your master's in organizational development and leadership. Can you share with those watching what exactly those degrees are and how you came to study them?
Yeah, sure. So, So after high school, went on to Shippensburg University to pursue my Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration, majored in accounting. So even though I went through PFEW, learned all about all the different areas that I could possibly go into, I still decided to go into accounting just because I love numbers, love to understand the cornerstone of business. And so accounting really is the foundation block. And so you learned about transactions, you learned about understanding how to record an asset, understanding what a liability really is, understanding equity, how much the difference is when after you've taken away liabilities of an asset, which really is in turn the equity. So you learn about the technical side of business. And so after from my master's degree, I decided to learn more about just the people side, understanding more about people, who runs the business. And so you learn how to lead, but then also most importantly, you learn how to follow. Because I find that if you're not a good follower, there's just no way you can be a good leader, because that's really how good leaders are made. Because if you're not learning how to follow, you're not learning the technical side of things. You just don't have that background to be able to effectively lead others. So the Master's of Science in Organizational Development and Leadership really kind of brings that together for me. Not only did I have an accounting background, more of on the technical side, and now I'm adding on the people side. I just wanted to have that all together, just to be able to go into the working world and be as an effective employee and possibly leader in the future. So that kind of all comes together. And then ultimately, the IT audit kind of comes into play after I've actually after I've understood the importance of being relevant. So in this current working age, cyber has been, it's been pretty critical to how we work and how we operate. You've probably heard about all the different hacks that's been going on, the different breaches, and there's just so many news out there. And so I've decided to be relevant in that field. And so, and not only to be relevant, but I've also wanted to learn more about how systems process certain data. So from our perspective, from a claims processing perspective, you want to understand how information is coming in, how that data is coming in, and how it's being utilized, how it's being processed, and ultimately how it is being pushed out of the system. Where is it going? How is it protected? What's the encryption level? So you want to understand the different phases that data goes through. And as an insurance company, you're dealing a lot with protected health information. You're dealing with a lot of just information that's confidential. So you want to understand the different phases that it goes through. So I want to touch on certifications, because after I've attained my bachelor's and my master's, went on to obtain my certifications. And so currently I have 3 certifications, and one of them is being a certified information systems auditor. And then another certification is in risk, understanding IT risk and the different implications regarding IT systems. And then the third certification of mine is on the cybersecurity practitioner, just being able to understand how to handle an incident when a threat is being presented. So after you've gone through that academic, after attaining those academic degrees, certifications become very important, because certifications are a lot cheaper. And so certifications do provide more of that practical background, and it just allows you to share with employees that you just love to learn. And so you're not going to go back to school for more master's degrees, right? You're going to go to more of a professional organizations that provide those certifications just to be relevant and just to be more practical, rather than from an academic perspective where you're just learning a lot more theory and concepts. You're learning more how to actually handle those situations.
Yeah, and that seems too that always be learning really has come through in a lot of different careers. And you, of course, mentioned furthering your education with these certifications to help, pursue your career aspirations. So let's talk a little bit more about your career. Can you share how you became an auditor? Certainly, did you ever imagine that you would be in the position you were in? And maybe, likewise, you can tell them exactly what an auditor does and what a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah, so back in high school, there's no way I would have imagined that there's a profession where you would be an auditor, where you'd be reviewing someone else's work. So I could have never imagined that I would be an auditor. Like I said, I've always wanted to be an accountant, just punching away numbers. So how I got introduced was after graduating college. I applied to so many jobs that were accounting related, that were just it was just all random, right? And I'm sure most of you will experience this after graduating college is that you're going to apply to different positions, whether or not it's going to be in a job that you're actually going for. So I've always, like I said, I've always wanted to be an accountant. But how things work in life is that you're going to be put into a different position and than you've actually wanted to be in. And so auditing just came up at Capital Blue Cross. So there was a position open at Capital Blue Cross, and I decided to go ahead and apply for it. They were looking for an entry-level auditor who wanted to learn, who had a good academic, transcript. And so I decided to go into that role, and that was kind of my starting point. And how IT audit came into play is that I actually had a colleague of mine who was an IT auditor, and she was looking at information systems. She was looking at access controls, who has access to the system, and the importance of ensuring that systems are being secured, basically throughout the whole project. And so just going into auditing, and I was a financial auditor, so I was looking more at numbers, and that was what I went to school for, was understanding numbers. But I wanted to grow and to understand how systems come into play. And so just going into a role and then evolving from that role is the most important part. And so by having that kind of like that carrot, that role that I want to get into, I decided to go and pursue certifications. And then within my master's program, I actually also had a concentration in management information systems. So just having that academic, and then you add in more of a practical certification to the resume, I began to start developing myself. And currently, I work as an information technology auditor. So it's really kind of going back to kind of my experience. Started out as a financial auditor, and then went down to DC, became a consultant. Again, more of a financial kind of compliance type person. And then I wanted to go into more of a system administrator role. I wanted to have a little bit more of a deeper dive understanding of how systems operate. And you can't audit unless you have a little bit of experience in that role of an IT person. So I decided to pursue that as a system administrator. So just kind of going through the different roles. It really doesn't matter where you work at. It's really the different types of roles that you play. And fortunately enough for me, I was always within that Blue Cross Blue Shield umbrella. And so just having that business understanding, and then ultimately having a little bit of a technology background understanding. And currently I'm in as an IT auditor. So kind of going back to your question, nope, never thought I'd be in this role. But it's really an evolving role. And with current news, nowadays with breaches and hacks and ransomware, it's just a great profession to be in, because you're always learning. And if you want to keep up with the bad actors or the hackers, you have to continue to evolve and learn.
And that's great. And obviously, being that your job has to do with assessing risks within the Blue Cross Blue Shield companies, whether it's access to systems, buildings, sensitive information, it's making sure everybody's safe and there is no risk. But let's talk about a risk maybe that you have taken over the years. What would you say, Toan, is the biggest risk you've taken in your career to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so biggest risk for me was moving. And that's moving down to Washington, D.C. Going down to D.C., I knew absolutely no one. I just came down alone. I always asked myself, was this a good place? Is it a good working environment? And ultimately, work will most likely be the same wherever you go from one company to the next company. But it really goes down to who are you working with? Are the people, is the manager you're going to be working with? Is the senior leadership team? Are they going to have your back when something does go down? So all that was kind of running through my mind, and that's really an inherent risk that you're taking when you're moving from company to company. And so that was a huge risk that I took. I decided to go down to Washington D.C. ultimately for social reasons. That was kind of like the biggest factor in going down to D.C. Being a young guy back in the day, decided to go down there for the social aspect, but also from a career and growth perspective. So if I had to weigh the pros and cons, definitely the pros definitely outweighed the risk that I was taking, and so it was a good risk to take. And sometimes in life you just have to take those risks, and so that was one of those risks that you just have to take, especially when you're younger. You have time on your side, but once after that. Once you start to have a family, it really you're kind of going down to limiting those risks, right? Because you have other obligations, other commitments. So that was definitely the biggest risk I've taken.
And it obviously paid off for you very well, Toan. You worked to assess each of the Blue Cross Blue Shield companies' information technology processes, and so obviously they have a great level of trust in you to allow you to work in that position. So let's share some advice then with our viewers. Toan, what advice would you give to those watching about how to get to the level of trust you're at within your company, or just what career advice do you have that could help them work their way up the food chain, so to speak, such as you did? You started at that entry level position and look where you are now.
Yep. So in terms of, I guess, kind of going to that trust factor, because I'm let's be honest, right? When you're an auditor, you're looking at some pretty high level, top secret level stuff. You're reading all that material, and then you're going back, and then you're writing a report, and in the conference rooms you're listening. You're being exposed to all of that sensitive data, that information, and so to gain that level of trust, the certifications is one way to build trust with your clients, whether you're in the consulting field or whether you're kind of like in my role internally. So you wanna have those certifications to kind of back you up. And so for me, I follow the code of professional ethics, as well as other code of ethics, whether it's from Blue Cross Blue Shield Association, or whether it's from the Information Systems Audit and Controls Association, or what we always refer to as just ISACA by acronym, as well as the Institute of Internal Auditors, or the IIA. So there's different organizations that provide code of ethics for us as professionals to abide to. And then not only that, you have the companies. And so what the code of professional ethics really boils down to, being an auditor, is when I perform my work, I have to be independent. So when I say independent, I mean when someone looks at my work, can they say, hey, this guy or gal, were they independent? Meaning, do they have any interest in the organization that would allow me to give a positive rating, as opposed to me just giving an independent and very objective opinion. So really it comes down to my opinion that other stakeholders are going to be looking at. what's my opinion of the system. And so I follow the code of professional ethics, and I kind of look at that very highly because that's really what my work is based on. It goes back to trust. And can organizations trust me with that data, and can stakeholders who view my report, is my report, is it trustworthy? And so it really comes back to being independent, having that objective view, making sure that I'm not taking anything from people that I'm reviewing, just being objective, and it really comes down to my character, just the integrity. Can I be trusted with that information? And so I think as students go on throughout their careers, and whether or not they're an auditor or whether or not they're an accountant, they should always be following the code of ethics from the companies and really from organizations with which their profession belongs to. So yeah, it really boils down to following this code of ethics and just really building up on your character, and your character really goes a long way.
It certainly does. You talked about integrity, and no matter what career field you go in, that is something that I know a lot of companies are looking for, and making sure that their candidates are trustworthy in things. So before we go, Toan, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience who are listening? Any other little tidbits or tips for the group?
Yeah, certainly. So I've taken a lot of career advice along the way, and I do have a few that I would love to share with you if you're still listening during this session. So for me, one of the advice that I've really taken was to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And I know I mentioned that, and I really want to keep that push again. Throughout your career, you're going to always have the opportunity to follow, and then you're always going to have an opportunity to lead on projects, or what we call engagements, and like working on a project. And so, take the opportunity to be a good follower. Definitely just go ahead and just be open to ideas of your leader, and eventually you're going to have so many leaders that you're going to have so much input from, that you're going to go back and eventually be that leader, and you're going to be such a great leader because you've had so much great influences on you. So you're kind of like a sponge. You're really just learning, and because right now, to those listening, you're still young, you're still in high school and going often to college. Take that opportunity to learn from your professors, from your group leaders, from your supervisors, whoever you are, like whoever they are. Just kind of take that in. Another advice I have is I take this advice, and I got this advice from a chief auditor of mine, and he said that do what others do not want to do, and do it more with a passion, because you will be recognized for sure. And so I do want to share that when I was working on an assessment, no one really wanted to do this assessment. It was very small in terms of impact, and so I kind of took it, ran with it, because I was young at the time, and I was like, this seems pretty big. It seems pretty important, and now it is very important. So you kind of take that. Take what others do not want to do, and really just go with it. Do it with more of a passion, and you'll run far, because you will get noticed. And that's really what I want to push out is just do it, and you'll get noticed, even though it's currently viewed as small. Now, another advice I want to give is just don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Investing in yourself is really key. So let's say in the future, if your employer doesn't want to spend a couple grand just to invest in your education, because you want to pursue a more impactful role. So let's say you wanted to go into IT auditing. Let's say you wanted to learn about systems. And let's say if your employer doesn't want to contribute to your growth, just go ahead and dedicate some of your earnings to that education, because it's really an investment in yourself, and your investment will grow exponentially, because you can really only invest in yourself. That's really I want to push is continue to invest in yourself and have faith in yourself, because eventually it's going to pay off in the long run. Last advice I want to give, and I kind of mentioned this, but kind of mentioned it briefly, but always have a carrot. Always have a goal. So after you've gotten to that carrot, always continue on to the next level. Whether or not it could be a hobby, it could be a certification, maybe a second master's degree. It could be whatever. So just always have another carrot in place, and once you're done chasing that carrot, have another goal. That'll be your next carrot. That just keeps the cycle going, because really in life, you want to have something that you're looking forward to, something that you want to accomplish. It's so easy to kind of relax, and I'm guilty of that myself during this COVID period. I just wanted to kind of chill, relax, Netflix. But at the same time, I always tell myself, hey, always have another carrot to push me forward. And I do miss having the opportunity to travel, especially for work. Like right now I'm at Rehoboth Beach. So always have something that you can always look forward to, even during these times. So that's really my advice I want to give.
And that's great advice, Toan. And we cannot thank you enough for being with us today, taking time out of your vacation to join us. And, we appreciate it. We appreciate you being part of the Foundation family. We absolutely love when our alumni come back to join us adults. So thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you, Amber, so much. I really appreciate everything that PFEW does. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share some of my story and some of the advice for the students. So thank you.
If you're interested in connecting with Toan, or if you have questions about careers in IT, we would be happy to connect you with him. My contact information will be shared at the end of this video, and if you reach out to me personally, I will make sure that you are connected with Toan. Thanks for watching.